Have you ever noticed that some people never justify themselves, never over-explain, never get caught up in endless arguments, and yet everyone respects them? It's not coldness, it's not arrogance. What you're witnessing is actually a collection of very specific psychological traits that most people simply don't possess. And here's what's fascinating. By the end of this video, I'm going to reveal the final trait that completely transforms how others perceive you. This last one is so powerful that once you understand it, you'll never look at social dynamics the same way again. So stick around, because what I'm about to share will fundamentally change how you navigate conversations, conflicts, and relationships. Let's start with the foundation. The first trait is genuine emotional control. And I need to be clear about something right from the start. Emotional control doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you don't react impulsively. Here's the psychological key that most people miss entirely. When someone justifies themselves immediately, they're doing it to reduce their internal anxiety. It's an automatic response driven by the fear of being misunderstood, rejected, or judged. Think about the last time you rushed to explain yourself. What were you really trying to do? You were trying to eliminate discomfort as quickly as possible. But people who don't justify themselves, they can tolerate that discomfort. They can sit with the silence. They don't need to relieve the tension instantly. And here's why this matters so much. The human brain associates calmness under pressure with internal power. When someone stays composed and doesn't over-explain, we unconsciously perceive them as secure, confident, even dominant in some way. The second trait is a solid internal identity. Now pay close attention to this one, because this is where things get really interesting. People who don't justify themselves, don't depend on external validation to maintain their sense of self. They know who they are, they know why they do what they do, and they don't need others to approve of it in order to feel at peace. When someone says, "I know what I did and why I did it," and just leaves it at that, what they're showing you is a defined internal identity. In psychology, this relates to what we call a strong internal locus of control. These individuals evaluate themselves from within, not through the lens of other people's opinions. That's why they don't argue to convince, they don't explain to please, they don't defend themselves to fit in. And here's where it gets uncomfortable for a lot of people. Insecure people need explanations. Secure people don't. But be careful here, because not justifying yourself isn't always a sign of maturity. There's an important nuance we need to address. The third trait is high social awareness. This point is subtle, but incredibly powerful. People who don't justify themselves understand something that many others don't. Not every conversation deserves your energy. They recognize when an explanation won't be heard, when it won't change anything, when it will only fuel more conflict. So they choose strategic silence. Psychologically, this is called emotional economy. They invest their energy only where there's real return. And this creates something fascinating. When you don't justify yourself, the other person often starts doing it mentally for you. Silence creates a void, and the human brain absolutely hates voids. So many times the other person begins to doubt themselves, question their own position, and lower their intensity. But there's something even deeper happening here, something that connects silence with social respect in a profound way. Before we go deeper into this psychology, if you're finding value in what we're exploring here, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and drop a like on this video. It helps more people discover this content, and honestly, it tells me that you want more videos like this one. And if something I've said resonates with you or challenges you, leave a comment below. I read every single one, and your insights often shape future videos. All right, now let's dive into the traits that really separate people who command respect from everyone else. The fourth trait is the absence of toxic guilt. Here's an uncomfortable truth that most people don't want to face. The majority of people justify themselves because they feel guilty, even when they haven't done anything wrong. It's learned guilt, social guilt, guilt about not meeting other people's expectations. People who don't justify themselves have worked through, either consciously or unconsciously, their relationship with guilt. They don't feel the need to emotionally pay for simply existing. This doesn't make them insensitive. It makes them clear. If they make a mistake, they acknowledge it. If they haven't, they don't defend themselves. And this sends an incredibly strong psychological, message. My value is not up for debate. But what happens when someone misinterprets your silence as arrogance? This is where the next trait explains everything. The fifth trait is understanding the psychological game. People who don't justify themselves understand something crucial. Many questions aren't seeking understanding. They're seeking control. When someone demands explanations from you, sometimes they want power. Sometimes they want to feel superior. Sometimes they just want to see you doubt yourself. So not justifying yourself becomes a way of refusing to enter the game. Not reacting is, in itself, a response. In social psychology, this relates to invisible boundaries. You don't say no. You don't argue. You simply don't grant access. And curiously enough, this generates respect. Think about it this way. When you constantly explain yourself, you're essentially asking for permission to be who you are. When you stop justifying, you're declaring that permission isn't needed. That's a fundamental shift in power dynamics. But here's what many people get wrong. They think not justifying yourself means being cold, distant, or dismissive. That's not it at all. You can be warm, kind, and compassionate while still maintaining clear boundaries. The key is knowing when an explanation serves a purpose and when it's just you trying to manage someone else's emotions for them. Let me give you a practical example. Imagine someone challenges a decision you made. An insecure response might be, well, I did it because of this and also because of that, and I thought about this other thing. And really, if you think about it from this perspective, notice how exhausting that is. Notice how it screams uncertainty. Now compare that to, I made the decision that felt right to me. That's it. Short, clear, grounded. If the other person needs more information to move forward constructively, you can provide it, but you're not scrambling to justify your right to make choices. And now the final and most important trait, coherence between action and words. This is the game changer. People who don't justify themselves let their actions speak for them. They don't need to explain who they are because they demonstrate it through consistency. When there's coherence, explanation becomes unnecessary. Defense loses its purpose. Silence becomes sufficient. That's why the more coherent someone is, the less they justify themselves, and this connects to a profound truth. People who constantly justify themselves often do so because their actions aren't aligned with their identity. Think about it. If you say you value health but regularly make unhealthy choices, you'll constantly feel the need to explain yourself. If you say you value honesty but shade the truth regularly, you'll exhaust yourself with justifications. But when your actions consistently reflect your values, the need to explain simply evaporates. This is why authenticity is so powerful. It's not just about being yourself in some abstract way. It's about creating such alignment between who you say you are and how you actually live that explanations become redundant. People see the consistency and they either respect it or they don't. But either way, you're not performing for their approval. Here's something most people never consider. Every time you over-justify yourself, you're teaching others that your boundaries are negotiable. You're showing them that if they push hard enough, question long enough, or express enough disapproval, you'll fold. You'll explain. You'll seek their approval. But when you can comfortably exist in your own certainty without needing to convince everyone else, you're demonstrating something rare, internal authority, and people respond to that even if they don't consciously understand why. So the next time you encounter someone who doesn't defend themselves, doesn't over-explain, doesn't get pulled into unnecessary arguments, don't assume they're cold or arrogant. You're probably in the presence of someone with genuine emotional control, a solid identity, clear boundaries, and deep internal security. And if you want to apply this in your own life, start simple. Before you justify yourself, ask, is this explanation necessary, or am I just seeking approval? That question alone will begin to shift everything. Here's your challenge. For the next week, notice every time you feel the urge to over-explain. Don't judge yourself for it. Just notice it. Become aware of the pattern. That awareness is the first step toward change. If this video made you think differently, if it challenged something you believed, or if it gave you a new perspective, make sure you're subscribed to this channel, because we're just getting started. We're not here to tell you what to think. We're here to help you understand how the human mind works, so you can use that knowledge in your favor. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll dive even deeper into the psychology of influence and perception. Until then, remember, it's not about reacting more. It's about understanding better.